My name is Emily Carter, and at 42 years old, I stood at my mother's funeral in Willow Creek, dreading the moment my sister, Lauren, would walk through the door. 7 years had passed since she betrayed me, stealing James, my wealthy fiancé, the man I thought I'd build a future with. I hadn't laid eyes on them since that heartbreak. As they entered, Lauren's emerald ring glinting under the soft lights, her familiar smirk in place, a quiet confidence settled over me. She had no clue who was waiting to greet her. Before I share how Lauren's composure crumbled when she met my new husband, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below. If my story resonates, please like and subscribe to follow my journey. It really helps share tales like mine with others. Growing up in a cozy home on the outskirts of Maplewood, my mother, Grace, was the heart of our family. She taught me resilience and poise, forging a bond that only strengthened with time. Even after I moved to a sleek loft in downtown Maplewood to chase my career as a branding consultant, we spoke almost daily. Grace was my rock, my guide, my fiercest supporter. 9 months ago, her diagnosis of stage 3 breast cancer shattered my world. Despite grueling treatments, we knew her days were numbered. Grace faced her illness with unwavering dignity, more worried about us than herself. Her final days were serene, surrounded by family in the home where she raised us. She passed holding my hand, urging me to find joy in my life. 7 years ago, at 35, my life seemed idyllic. I had a thriving career, loyal friends, a stylish loft, but something felt absent. I worked 70-hour weeks and dated sporadically, never finding a lasting spark. Then, at a fundraiser introduced by my friend Sarah, I met James Harper. Charismatic, with a warm smile and effortless charm, James, a self-made finance mogul at 39, was the kind of success story that inspired headlines. Our connection was instant. We bonded over literature, adventure, and big dreams. After our first date at a chic bistro overlooking the river, I called Grace, giddy, telling her I'd found someone extraordinary. Our romance blossomed swiftly, weekends in Pine Cove, theater premieres, quiet dinners. James was thoughtful, showering me with meaningful gifts and planning grand outings. After 20 months, during a candlelit dinner on a private balcony in Maplewood's harbor, he proposed with a 4-carat sapphire ring. I accepted instantly. My parents, especially Grace, were overjoyed, already dreaming of a grand wedding. James had the means to make it spectacular, and Grace encouraged us to embrace every detail. Then there was Lauren, my sister, just 3 years younger. Our childhood was a mix of closeness and rivalry. Lauren always coveted what I had: dolls, friends, praise. If I succeeded, she strove to outshine me. Grace worked tirelessly to balance our dynamic, giving us each special moments. Despite our past, I named Lauren my maid of honor, hoping, as Grace believed, it would mend old wounds. At a family gathering where I introduced Lauren to James, she was overly effusive, her hand lingering on his arm as she laughed at his quips. I brushed it off as her usual charisma. Our engagement party, held at my parents' charming craftsman home, was magical. Lauren assisted Grace with decor, draping lanterns across the garden and arranging lilies. I noticed her gazing at James during the night, but when our eyes met, she flashed a warm smile and toasted me. Later, as we cleaned, Grace pulled me aside in the pantry. "Emily, I saw Lauren seems quite fond of James," she said, stacking plates. "She's just being herself, Mom," I replied, rinsing glasses. "She's dating that ad exec, Ethan." Grace nodded, unconvinced. "Just watch, sweetheart. You know how she gets with what you cherish." I hugged her, insisting all was well. How mistaken I was. 4 months before the wedding, James began to change. He worked later, texting at odd times, citing overseas clients. Our Thursday dinners were often rescheduled for crises. When together, he was distant, glued to his phone, barely listening. More troubling, he started faulting traits he once adored. My humor was too boisterous, my emerald dress now unflattering, my evening sketching a nuisance. Meanwhile, Lauren called constantly, peppering me with wedding queries, though Grace managed most plans. She offered to handle vendor visits I missed due to work. One Tuesday at a trendy tapas bar, James barely looked at me, his responses curt. When his phone buzzed repeatedly, I snapped, "Is something more urgent elsewhere?" He mumbled, "Just work, pre-deal chaos," setting his phone down. Days later, I noticed a sweet, unfamiliar perfume on his jacket, unlike my citrus scent. He claimed it was from a client, Olivia Grant, who wore strong fragrance and hugged him farewell. I wanted to trust him. Over brunch with Sarah, I voiced my fears. "Pre-wedding nerves are normal," she said. "Mark and I bickered endlessly before ours, and we're solid 6 years in." But my unease lingered. Grace noticed my tension. At our weekly tea, "You seem off, darling," she said, squeezing my hand. "Wedding stress or more?" I forced a grin. "Just swamped, Mom. All's good." But it wasn't. I doubled my efforts, thinking I'd neglected James. I planned romantic evenings, tried new recipes, but he grew colder. Then came the dessert tasting he'd eagerly anticipated. That morning, he cancelled, citing a sudden investor call. Lauren can go, he suggested. She knows what I like. My stomach churned. How did she know his taste so well? Still, I let her join me. The next day, tidying James's car for a gala, I found a gold hoop earring in the passenger seat. Lauren's, a gift from our aunt. When I confronted him, he said, she must have lost it when I drove her to the bakery last week. She mentioned misplacing one. You didn't mention driving her, I whispered. Didn't I? It was nothing. Lauren's story aligned perfectly, thank goodness. My car was at the shop. That night, I lay awake, wondering if they'd rehearsed their tale. 3 weeks before the wedding, James suggested delaying. You're not yourself, Emily. Maybe we're moving too fast. I pleaded, desperate to fix us, but his gaze was hollow. At 2 a.m., I heard him whispering in the study, not now, she'll hear. Soon, I swear. The next day, I decided to surprise him with lunch at his office. My father, Henry, called as I left. Are you okay, Em? Your mom says you're too thin. Just nerves, Dad. Bringing James lunch now. Good. He better treat my girl right. At James's building, the guard waved me up to the 10th floor. In the elevator, I smoothed my brow, clutching a bag with his favorite panini. At reception, James's assistant, Clara, looked startled. Emily, he's in a meeting. I'll wait, I said, holding up the lunch. Clara blocked me. He asked for no interruptions. Is he alone? Her pause confirmed my fears. I pushed past, opening his office door to a scene that seared my soul. James against his desk, Lauren in his arms, their lips locked. They didn't notice me at first, giving me agonizing moments to absorb their intimacy. When the door shut, they broke apart. Emily, James stammered, fixing his collar. This isn't, Lauren cut in, defiant. We didn't mean for this to happen. My voice was eerily calm. How long? James hesitated. Let's talk privately. How long? Lauren answered, since the engagement party. 5 months. Half our engagement, while I planned our future, they deceived me. James retreated behind his desk. Feelings shift, Emily. I was going to tell you after what? The wedding? The lunch bag slipped from my hand. I trusted you both. Lauren shifted uncomfortably. It just happened, Em. Don't call me that. Nothing happens for 5 months. You chose this. James buzzed Clara. Please escort Emily out. I'm leaving myself, I said, my pride intact despite my shattering heart. In the elevator, tears broke free. By the time I reached my car, sobs racked me. I called Grace, collapsing in my loft, barely coherent. She and Henry arrived swiftly, holding me as I recounted everything. Henry paced, furious. I'll ruin him, he growled. Both of them. Henry, your heart, Grace cautioned, her own rage evident, the days blurred in anguish. Grace cancelled wedding plans while Henry sorted finances. Returning James's ring to his doorman, I learned Lauren had moved in, her belongings replacing mine. James's email about splitting assets was clinical, noting Lauren's help in listing my items. Friends revealed their secret meetings during my late nights or trips. The gossip spread, some siding with James due to his clout, others admitting they'd seen their flirtations but stayed silent. Grace was my anchor, bringing meals, listening, staying over when despair overwhelmed me. She tried bridging Lauren and me, but family dinners ended in icy silence or sharp words. At one, Lauren lashed out when I ignored her. You always had it all, Emily, career, home, love. I finally got something first. James wasn't a trophy, I retorted. He was my partner. Grace intervened. Lauren Jane Carter, apologize. For what? He chose me. I left, unable to bear more. That was the last dinner with Lauren present. 7 months after uncovering Lauren and James's betrayal, I hit my lowest point. My therapist in Maplewood diagnosed me with depression, suggesting medication to help me cope. My work as a branding consultant suffered. I lost a key client after a presentation where I broke down in tears. My supervisor recommended a leave of absence, but I knew staying in Maplewood, where every street held memories of James, would only deepen my pain. When a creative director role opened in our Seattle branch, I applied without hesitation. The virtual interview went better than expected. My need for escape must have come across as passion. 3 weeks later, I received the offer. Grace helped me pack my loft, wrapping keepsakes in bubble wrap with care. As we sorted through my belongings, deciding what to keep or donate, she gently raised the topic that lingered between us. Will you ever forgive Lauren? She asked, taping a box shut. I folded a scarf, avoiding her gaze. I can't say, Mom. Not now. Maybe never. She sat on the couch beside me. Forgiveness isn't about her earning it, Emily. It's about setting yourself free. I met her eyes, my voice soft. I'm trying to free myself by moving to Seattle. Grace took my hand. Running isn't healing, sweetheart. Tears welled up. I need distance to even start healing. Can you understand? She hugged me tightly. Promise you'll call. Don't shut us out. I promise, I whispered, saying goodbye to my parents was wrenching. Henry held me longer than usual, his voice rough. Show them, Em. Build a life that makes them regret everything. My first weeks in Seattle were isolating. My small apartment in a high-rise felt cold and foreign. I worked 80-hour weeks to avoid the emptiness, eating takeout at my desk and collapsing into bed each night. Then came the news that deepened my wound. Grace called one rainy Sunday, her tone careful. Emily, I wanted you to hear this from me, not online. Lauren and James got married yesterday. A brief courthouse ceremony had made it into Seattle's lifestyle pages, thanks to James's financial connections. The photo showed them smiling outside the registry office, Lauren in a chic silk dress, my old engagement ring gleaming on her finger. That night, I spiraled. I drank a bottle of Merlot alone, scrolled through old texts from James, and sobbed until my throat ached. I called in sick the next day, unable to face anyone. But in the quiet of that morning, as light streamed through my window, something shifted. I decided this would be the last day I let them control my happiness. I deleted James's messages, blocked them both online, and took a long shower, visualizing my pain rinsing away. At work, I dove into projects with renewed focus. My boss noticed, assigning me high-profile accounts. I earned a reputation for innovation and reliability, gaining respect in the Seattle office. My first friend in the city was Olivia Bennett, our HR manager, who invited me to her knitting group. Through her, I met others, slowly forming a new circle. Olivia tried setting me up on dates, but I declined, still wary of opening my heart. 6 months into my Seattle life, I was sent to a marketing summit in Denver to represent our firm. At a networking dinner, I was seated next to Daniel Walsh, a venture capitalist who'd recently moved from Portland. Unlike James's flashy charm, Daniel was reserved and authentic. His quiet confidence and insightful questions about my work drew me in without overwhelming me. He spoke passionately about his investments but never bragged. After dinner, he asked for my contact, and I gave it, expecting nothing more. The next morning, he emailed, suggesting we grab coffee to discuss branding strategies before the day's panels. I agreed, intrigued by his sincerity. Over the next 4 months, Daniel and I kept in touch professionally. He referred clients to my agency, and I connected him with Seattle's business network. Olivia noticed our frequent coffee meetings. He's into you, Emily, she teased. Not just for work. I laughed it off. We're colleagues. Colleagues don't smile at each other like that, she countered. Eventually, Daniel invited me to dinner at a quiet seafood restaurant, no work agenda attached. I nearly canceled, nerves gripping me, but forced myself to go. 30 minutes in, sharing stories about our favorite travel spots, I had a panic attack. My hands trembled, my breath caught, and tears threatened. Daniel didn't flinch. He moved to my side, speaking softly until I calmed. He drove me home, no questions asked. The next day, a bouquet arrived at my office with a note, no rush, no pressure. Just hoping you're okay, Daniel. That evening, I called him and opened up about James and Lauren. He listened patiently, then shared his own past, a painful divorce after his ex-partner cheated with a colleague, taking half their startup. Betrayal leaves marks, he said. Anyone worth your time will respect your pace. Over the following months, Daniel and I built a friendship first. He respected my boundaries, never pushing for more than I could offer. For our 6th date, he invited me to his place for a home-cooked meal, knowing crowded restaurants could trigger my anxiety. When panic crept in, he guided me through it with calm assurance. For the first time since James, I began to trust again. A year after moving to Seattle, my life had transformed. I was promoted to senior creative director, earning a spacious office with a view of the Sound. My friendships grew beyond Olivia to include a tight-knit group. Most unexpectedly, I had fallen deeply for Daniel. Unlike James's extravagant gestures, Daniel's love showed in small, steady ways, remembering I liked almond milk in my latte, saving articles about art exhibits I'd enjoy, supporting my ambitions without overshadowing them. I met Daniel's brother, Ethan, during a visit from Boise. We hit it off, swapping stories of Daniel's quirky childhood, giving me a fuller picture of the man I was growing to love. My connection with my parents continued long distance. I called Grace weekly, avoiding Lauren's name. Henry joined occasionally, his voice softening as he praised my new life. I visited Maplewood twice, timing my trips to avoid Lauren and James. Grace shared sparse updates about them, their social media. Painted a flawless marriage, with Lauren posting about exotic trips and galas. They'd bought a sprawling home in River Heights, renovating it lavishly. Lauren asks about you sometimes, Grace said during one call. What do you say? I asked, stirring tea in my Seattle kitchen. That you're thriving, building something new. Does she regret anything? In her way, she quiets when I mention you. Therapy in Seattle helped me process the betrayal, teaching me to spot triggers and set boundaries. Nightmares of James and Lauren faded. In July, Daniel surprised me with a weekend in Oregon's wine region. We stayed at a quaint inn, toured vineyards, and watched sunsets over the Pacific. For the first time in years, I felt unburdened by the past. One evening, strolling through a lavender field at a Seattle garden, Daniel stopped under a pergola draped in wisteria. Emily, he said, holding my hands, this year with you has been my greatest joy. When he knelt, revealing a ring box, old fears flickered, memories of James's proposal. But Daniel's steady gaze grounded me. No answer needed now, he said. I just want you to know I'm here, whenever you're ready. Tears fell, not from fear, but hope. Yes, I whispered. I'm ready. The ring, a delicate amethyst flanked by tiny pearls, was simple, like our love. That night, I called my parents. Grace wept with joy. He sounds perfect, Emily. When can we meet him? Soon, I promised. We planned a small wedding, 40 guests, at a historic Seattle venue. At Grace's urging, I sent Lauren an invitation. More for closure than expectation. Her reply was curt, congratulations. James and I are unavailable that day. Best wishes. Grace sighed but wasn't shocked. Give her time, Emily. This is a step forward. Our wedding was intimate and radiant, with my parents, new friends, and Daniel's family present. Henry walked me down the aisle, murmuring, "You're glowing, kiddo." Daniel's vows touched my soul. Emily, I vow to cherish our loves. Strength and fragility, earning your trust daily, knowing its precious cost. We settled into a Seattle townhouse, renovating it together. My career soared, landing me a vice president role. Daniel's venture fund thrived, focusing on eco-tech startups. At a client dinner, I learned a surprising link. A colleague mentioned working with James years ago. Harper and Walsh were rivals in venture capital 8 years back. Walsh bet on the winning startup. Harper's pick tanked, costing him millions. Later, I asked Daniel. I knew you'd been engaged to Harper, he admitted. I didn't mention it because I wanted you to see me, not my past with him. I wasn't upset. The coincidence felt like fate's quiet justice. 3 years into our marriage, we faced fertility struggles, navigating tests and heartbreak. Daniel stayed steadfast, reminding me our family could take many shapes. Then came Grace's cancer diagnosis, a devastating blow. We flew to Maplewood, consulting specialists and supporting Henry through Grace's treatment. Her cancer was aggressive, spreading quickly. I took leave to care for her, staying in my childhood home. Daniel flew in weekends, bolstering us all. In Grace's final weeks, we shared deep talks about love and family. One night, adjusting her blanket, she said, I wish you and Lauren could mend things. Life's too short for such a divide. I know, Mom, I replied, voice thick. Promise you'll try, Emily. For you, and a bit for me. I nodded, unsure but wanting to ease her heart. Grace passed peacefully 4 days later, with Daniel, Henry, and me by her side. I called Lauren immediately, our first direct contact in years. Mom's gone, I said. She gasped softly. I'll be there in an hour, she replied, voice cracking. At my parents' home, we hugged stiffly, focusing on Henry and funeral plans. The real challenge awaited at the funeral, where old wounds would meet fresh grief and Grace's final wish. The morning of Grace's funeral in Willow Creek dawned with a soft mist, mirroring the heavy grief in my heart. At 42, I stood in my old bedroom, smoothing the hem of my navy dress, wondering how I'd endure the day. Daniel appeared in the doorway, steady in his charcoal suit, resting his hands on my shoulders. I'm here, Emily, he said. His eyes meeting mine in the mirror. No matter what happens. Downstairs, Henry sat at the dining table, staring at an untouched mug of tea. The past weeks had aged him. At 75, his broad shoulders now slumped under sorrow's weight. Ready, Dad? I asked, touching his arm. He nodded slowly. Grace always said funerals are for those left behind. I get it now. The funeral home buzzed with arriving mourners when we pulled up. I stayed near Henry, offering practiced smiles and accepting hugs from faces blurred by time, cousins from Oregon, Grace's book club friends, neighbors from their 45 years. In Willow Creek. Your Grace's spitting image, my Aunt Margaret said, squeezing my hand. She'd be so proud. A friend of Grace's, Linda, asked, "You're in Seattle now, right?" Grace said you moved. Yes, 6 years, I replied, omitting that Lauren's betrayal had driven me there. As I guided Henry to the front row, Daniel at his side, a hush fell over the room. Lauren and James entered, drawing eyes and whispers. Lauren's tailored black dress hugged her frame, her pearl earrings catching the light. James, in a crisp suit, kept a possessive arm around her, her hand showcasing that familiar sapphire ring, my old engagement ring. Henry tensed beside me. "Breathe, Dad," I murmured, worried for his heart. They moved through the crowd, pausing to greet attendees. I focused on Grace's portrait by the closed casket, her gentle smile calming my nerves. When they reached us, Lauren hugged Henry, who responded stiffly. James offered a handshake, met with a curt nod. "Emily," Lauren said, her tone unreadable. "It's been a while." "Yes," I said evenly, guarding my words. James muttered, "Condolences." Daniel had stepped away to check on the service, leaving me briefly alone with them. Lauren seized the moment. "Can we talk privately?" she asked, nodding toward a side room. Against my instincts, I followed, avoiding a scene at Grace's funeral. The small room held only chairs and a tissue box, meant for private grief. Lauren shut the door, and up close, I noticed faint shadows under her eyes, her makeup unable to mask her strain. "You look tired," she said, scanning me. "Grief's heavy," I replied flatly. She twisted her ring nervously. "James and I bought a lake house in Silver Pines last month. 9 bedrooms, private dock." I stayed silent, puzzled by her need to boast. "We're thinking of kids soon," she pressed on. "James's firm just landed 3 major deals, and we're adding a home office." "Congrats," I said, my voice neutral. "Is this about the funeral?" Her smile sharpened. "Just thought you'd like to know we're thriving." Poor Emily, still rebuilding at 42. 7 years ago, her words would have gutted me. Now, they seemed hollow. I smiled calmly. "Have you met my husband?" Her face faltered. "Husband?" "Daniel," I called, opening the door. He was nearby, as if sensing my need. "Meet my sister." James appeared behind him, tension crackling as their eyes met. "Walsh," James said, his confidence wavering. "Harper," Daniel replied coolly. 8 years, isn't it? Since Greentech outbid your startup, right? James swallowed hard. "You're married?" 3 years, I said, linking my arm with Daniel's. "Daniel Walsh, of Walsh Ventures." Lauren's eyes widened. "The Walsh Ventures? That's us," Daniel said smoothly. James tried to rally. "We should connect, Walsh. Discuss opportunities." "My calendar's tight," Daniel said politely, "but my assistant can help." The funeral director signaled the service's start, and we returned to our seats, whispers trailing us. The business world clearly knew of Daniel and James's rivalry. As we settled, Henry gripped his chest, his face twisting. "Dad," I gasped, as Daniel called for help. We moved him to a quiet room, pausing the service. A nurse among the guests checked him, deeming it stress, not a heart attack. Lauren hovered nearby, her worry genuine. "Is he okay? Should we get a paramedic?" she asked, voice trembling. "He's stable," I said, surprised by her concern. "Just shaken." For 15 tense minutes, we sat together, bound by fear for Henry. When he insisted on continuing, we rejoined the service, a fragile truce forming. The ceremony was poignant, shattering. My eulogy celebrated Grace's warmth, courage, and fierce love for us. When Lauren spoke, she stumbled, tears overtaking her after a few words. Instinctively, I stepped beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay," I whispered. "Breathe." She steadied, sharing childhood memories of Grace that drew soft laughter and tears from the crowd. At the cemetery, a light drizzle fell as we laid Grace to rest. James stood apart, checking his phone, while Lauren stayed near Henry, her earlier bravado gone, replaced by raw sorrow. At the reception in my parents' home, neighbors filled tables with potlucks, sharing stories of Grace. James drank steadily. Uneasy as colleagues flocked to Daniel, discussing market trends. I overheard snippets about James's firm struggling with bad investments, hinting Lauren's boasts masked trouble. I upheld the Grace my mother would have expected, focusing on Henry and her memory, not old grudges. As guests thinned, I caught Lauren watching me, her expression softer, almost regretful. The next morning, Daniel had to fly back to Seattle for a critical investor meeting. "Sure you'll be okay?" he asked, zipping his suitcase. "I need to help Dad sort Mom's things," I said. "I'll stay a few days." He kissed my forehead. "Call if you need me." After dropping him at the airport, I returned to find Henry in Grace's garden, a scrapbook open on his lap. She wrote captions for every photo, he said, showing her tidy script. Said we'd thank her someday. That afternoon, I began sorting Grace's closet, each garment a memory, the red dress from my grad school ceremony, the polka dot skirt for family picnics, the silver gown from my engagement party. I spoke to her softly, sharing my Seattle life, my pride in my work, my love for Daniel. In her nightstand, I found a velvet-bound diary. Her entries spanned years, many about Lauren and me, her ache over our estrangement, her hope we'd reconcile. The last, written 3 weeks before she passed, read, "My deepest sorrow is leaving my girls divided. I fixed so much, but not this. I pray they find each other again." Tears fell as the doorbell chimed. Through the window, I saw Lauren alone on the porch, no sign of James. Henry was at his sister's for lunch, leaving me to face her. I opened the door. "Hi," she said quietly. "Can I come in?" In the kitchen, I brewed tea while Lauren sat, looking smaller without James's shadow, less polished. "Where's James?" I asked, setting a mug before her. "Home," she said. "He doesn't know I'm here. I told him I needed space after yesterday." Silence hung heavy, years of unspoken pain between us. "I'm sorry for what I said. At the funeral home," she began. "It was cruel." I nodded, accepting the apology without embracing it. "I saw Mom's diary," she said. "Dad shared it last night. Her last wish was for us to make peace." "I found it too," I said. "But peace takes more than wishes, Lauren. It takes truth." She met my eyes, tears brimming. "You want truth?" "I'm miserable, Emily. Have been for years." Her voice cracked, and the floodgates opened. James had turned controlling after their marriage, critiquing her every move. His firm was drowning in debt, their lifestyle a facade propped by loans. "He tracks my calls, my spending, questions where I go," she confessed. "The James you loved is gone. Maybe he never existed." "Why stay?" I asked. "Pride," she said instantly. "How could I admit I broke our family for a lie? And the prenup, I'd leave with nothing." I slid Grace's diary across. "Read it all." As Lauren read, she wept. "She knew," she whispered. "She saw through us." "Mom always did," I agreed. "I've hated myself," Lauren said. "Every time Mom spoke of your successes, I felt my guilt grow. I'm leaving him, Emily. I've been meeting a lawyer in secret." My emotions tangled, satisfaction mixed with pity. "The sister who'd hurt me was trapped in her own consequences. I don't expect forgiveness," she said. "But I needed you to know before I append everything." We spent hours sifting through Grace's belongings, sharing memories, Grace's patience teaching us to sew, her silly songs during car rides. "Remember her lunchbox notes?" Lauren asked, smiling through tears. "Always different." "Never repeated," I added. Our wounds didn't heal instantly, but a tentative bridge formed, built on Grace's love. "What's next for you?" I asked as she stood to leave. "Divorce, when my lawyer's ready. A small place of my own. A fresh start." She paused. "And you? Back to Seattle?" "Yes. My life's there, with Daniel." "You seem happy," she said. "I am," I replied. "I'm glad," she murmured. We hugged briefly, a small step, not absolution, but a start. Back in Seattle, I settled into my life with Daniel, our townhouse, my career. 8 months after Grace's funeral, I learned I was pregnant, a miracle after our struggles. Joy mingled with grief that Grace wouldn't meet her grandchild, but I felt her spirit near. Lauren and I kept cautious contact, brief calls updating her divorce and new job at a boutique ad agency. Her path was hard, but she seemed resolute. My journey, born of loss, led to a life richer than I'd dreamed, shaped by wisdom and hope. Back in Seattle, life with Daniel felt like a warm embrace after the storm of Grace's funeral. At 42, I was settling into our cozy townhouse. My career as a vice president of branding thriving, and my heart slowly mending from the years of hurt. Our home, nestled in a quiet corner of Rainier Valley, was a sanctuary we'd made our own, hardwood floors we'd sanded together, walls painted in soft blues, and a small garden where I planted herbs Grace had loved. 8 months after the funeral, the joy of my pregnancy brought a new layer of hope, though it was tinged with sorrow that Grace wouldn't hold her grandchild. I felt her presence in quiet moments, like when I'd sit by the window, rubbing my growing belly, whispering to her about the life I was building. I'd love to hear your stories of finding light after loss. Drop a comment below and subscribe to follow my journey. Your support helps share these tales of resilience with others. Lauren and I maintained a fragile connection, exchanging brief calls every few weeks. She'd moved into a modest apartment in Willow Creek after filing for divorce from James. Her new job at a small marketing firm was a fresh start, though she faced whispers in Maplewood's tight-knit social circles. "It's humbling," she admitted during one call, her voice steady but softer than I remembered. "I'm learning to live honestly." I didn't offer forgiveness, but I listened, sensing her efforts to rebuild. My therapy sessions in Seattle continued to anchor me, helping me navigate the complex emotions of Lauren's revelations and Grace's absence. My therapist, Dr. Ellis, guided me to set boundaries while leaving room for healing, emphasizing that reconciliation didn't mean erasing the past. Nightmares of James and Lauren had faded, replaced by dreams of a future with Daniel and our child. Daniel's venture capital firm flourished, his focus on sustainable startups earning him respect across Seattle's tech scene. His steady presence was my rock, whether he was brewing my decaf coffee just right or leaving notes on my desk with silly doodles to make me smile. One evening, as we cooked dinner together, he brought up an idea. What if we started a foundation in Grace's name, he suggested, chopping vegetables. Something to support women in marketing, like you. The thought warmed me, a way to honor Grace's legacy of lifting others up. We spent weeks planning, drafting a mission to fund scholarships for young women entering the field. It felt like a bridge between my past and present, a way to carry Grace's love forward. My visits to Willow Creek became less frequent, but I called Henry weekly. At 75, he was struggling with Grace's loss, his heart condition requiring closer monitoring. I'm rattling around this house alone, he said during one call, his voice gruff. But I'm proud of you, Em. You're stronger than I ever was. I promised to visit soon, planning a trip for the holidays. When I did, I avoided Lauren and James, though Henry shared updates. James's firm was teetering, burdened by risky acquisitions, and their lavish lifestyle was unraveling. Lauren, he said, seemed quieter, more reflective, focusing on her job and therapy. She's trying, he noted. Like you. I nodded over the phone, unsure how to feel. One crisp October morning, I attended a women's leadership conference in Seattle to present our foundation's launch. The room buzzed with energy, and I felt Grace's spirit in my words as I spoke about empowering the next generation. Afterward, a young woman approached, her eyes bright. Your story inspires me, she said. I lost my mom last year, and I'm trying to find my way. We talked for an hour, and I gave her my card, promising to connect her with our scholarship program. Moments like these made the pain of my past feel purposeful, as if every scar had led me to this work. Back home, Daniel greeted me with a proud smile. You were amazing today, he said, pulling me into a hug. Grace would have been cheering the loudest. As my pregnancy progressed, Daniel and I prepared our home for the baby. We painted the nursery a pale lavender, a nod to Grace's favorite flower. One evening, assembling a crib, I found myself sharing memories of Grace's parenting, her bedtime stories, her knack for turning chores into games. Daniel listened, his hand steady with a screwdriver. You'll be just like her, he said. Loving, fierce, present. I smiled, hoping he was right. Our fertility journey had been long, marked by tests and tears, but this miracle felt like a gift from Grace. We chose the name Lily Grace for our daughter, a tribute to my mother's enduring light. In November, I received an unexpected email from Lauren. She'd heard about the foundation through a mutual friend and wanted to contribute. I know it doesn't fix anything, she wrote, but Mom would have loved this. Can I help? I hesitated, then called her. Why now? I asked. Her voice was small. I'm trying to be better, Emily. For Mom, for me. Maybe for you. We agreed she could volunteer remotely, organizing outreach for the foundation. It wasn't reconciliation, but it was a step, one I took cautiously, guided by Grace's wish for peace. Dr. Ellis helped me process this, reminding me that healing could coexist with boundaries. By December, my belly was round, and Seattle's winter wrapped our townhouse in a quiet chill. Daniel and I hosted a small holiday gathering for our friends, the first since Grace's passing. Olivia and her knitting group brought laughter, filling our home with warmth. As we toasted to new beginnings, I felt a kick from Lily, a reminder of the life growing within me. Later, Daniel and I sat by our fireplace, planning our future. What do you want for Lily? He asked. To know she's enough, just as she is, I said. And to learn from Grace's strength. He kissed my forehead. She'll have that, and your heart. A week before Christmas, I flew to Willow Creek to spend time with Henry. He was frilier, his grief etched deeper, but his eyes lit up when he felt Lily kick. Your mom would have spoiled her rotten, he chuckled, patting my hand. We spent days sorting Grace's remaining belongings, finding more of her journals. One entry, from 2 years prior, read, Emily's resilience humbles me. Lauren's lost, but I believe she'll find her way. My girls are my heart, even when they're apart. I shared it with Henry, tears falling. She never gave up on us, I said. He nodded. Keep trying with Lauren, Em. For Grace. I promised I would, though I wasn't sure how. Lauren called unexpectedly one evening, asking to meet. I agreed, suggesting a cafe in Willow Creek. She arrived alone, no trace of the polished facade she'd worn at the funeral. Over coffee, she spoke of her divorce's final stages, her new job, her therapy. "I'm not asking you to forget," she said, eyes down. "But I'm sorry, Emily. For everything." Her words stirred a mix of pain and relief. "I don't know if I can forgive yet," I said honestly. "But I hear you." She nodded, accepting my truth. We parted with a tentative hug, a flicker of the sisterhood we'd once shared. Back in Seattle, I told Daniel about the meeting. "You're stronger than you know," he said, holding me close. "Grace would be proud." As winter deepened, I prepared for Lily's arrival, my career on pause as I focused on motherhood. The foundation grew, with Lauren's remote help proving surprisingly reliable. Our calls became more frequent, less guarded, though trust remained a work in progress. My life with Daniel, Lily on the way, and the community we'd built in Seattle felt like a tapestry woven from loss and love. Grace's absence was a constant ache, but her lessons guided me. Forgiveness was for my peace, not Lauren's deserving. The scars of betrayal no longer defined me, they were threads in a richer story. As I folded tiny onesies, I thought of Lily, hoping to teach her that pain can lead to growth, that broken paths can guide us home. In Seattle, as winter gave way to the tentative bloom of spring, my life at 42 felt like a canvas painted with both vibrant hope and lingering shadows. Our Rainier Valley townhouse was alive with anticipation for Lily Grace's arrival, due in just 2 months. Daniel and I had transformed the nursery, its lavender walls adorned with framed sketches I'd drawn of Grace's favorite flowers, lilies and lavender. My career as a vice president of branding was on hold, maternity leave looming, but the foundation we'd started in Grace's name thrived, a beacon of her legacy. Lauren's remote contributions to the foundation had grown steady, her emails concise but thoughtful, suggesting outreach ideas that showed her marketing knack. Our phone calls, now monthly, were less strained, though trust remained a delicate thread. "I'd love to know how you've rebuilt after a loss. Share your story in the comments and subscribe to follow mine. Your support helps spread these tales of healing." My weekly therapy with Dr. Ellis in Seattle kept me grounded, helping me navigate the slow dance of reconnecting with Lauren. "You're not obligated to forgive," Dr. Ellis said during one session, her voice calm. "But opening the door, even slightly, is for your peace." I nodded, reflecting on Grace's final wish for her daughters to find each other. Back in Willow Creek, Henry's health was a quiet concern. At 75, his heart condition and grief over Grace left him fragile. I called him often, his gruff voice softening when we spoke of Lily. "She'll have your mom's spirit," he said one evening, a rare smile in his tone. I planned another visit to Willow Creek before the baby arrived, wanting to share these precious months with him. Daniel's venture capital firm continued to soar, his investments in green tech earning accolades. His support at home was unwavering, whether assembling baby furniture or rubbing my swollen feet after long days. One rainy March evening, as we sat by our fireplace, he surprised me with a leather-bound journal. "For Lily," he said. "So you can write her your stories, like Grace did for you." Tears pricked my eyes as I flipped through the blank pages, imagining the wisdom I'd share, Grace's lessons, my own journey through betrayal and renewal. That night, I wrote my first entry. "Dear Lily, your grandmother Grace taught me that love endures, even through pain. I hope you'll know her through me." The Foundation's first scholarship award ceremony was a milestone, held in a Seattle community center. I spoke about Grace's belief in empowering women, my voice steady despite the emotions swirling within. Lauren had helped coordinate the event remotely, ensuring smooth logistics. Afterward, she sent a tentative email. "The ceremony looked beautiful. Mom would have loved it. Can I visit Seattle sometime? I'd like to see you." I hesitated, then discussed it with Daniel. "It's your call," he said, squeezing my hand. "You've set boundaries, she'll respect them." After a session with Dr. Ellis, I replied, inviting her for a weekend after Lily's birth, a cautious step toward Grace's dream. In April, I traveled to Willow Creek to spend a week with Henry. He greeted me at the airport, his frame thinner but his hug fierce. "Look at you, Em," he said, eyeing my belly. Grace would be over the moon. We spent days in Grace's garden, pruning her rosebushes and flipping through her photo albums. One evening, sorting her jewelry, I found a locket with a photo of Lauren and me as kids, laughing on a swing set. Henry sighed. "Your mom kept that close. Said it reminded her of when you two were inseparable." I clutched it, a pang of nostalgia mixing with old hurt. "I'm trying, Dad," I said. "With Lauren." He patted my hand. "That's all Grace ever wanted." Lauren called midweek, asking to join us for dinner. I agreed, choosing a quiet Willow Creek diner to avoid James's shadow. She arrived alone, her face bare of the heavy makeup she once wore, her eyes carrying a new vulnerability. Over burgers, she shared updates. Her divorce was finalized, her apartment felt like a fresh start, her therapy was unraveling years of guilt. "I don't expect you to trust me," she said, picking at her fries. "But working on the foundation, it's the first thing I've done in years that feels right." I nodded, my guard softening. "Mom would have been proud of that," I said. We didn't erase the past, but the conversation felt like a small stitch in a torn fabric. As we parted, she touched my arm. "You're going to be an amazing mom, Emily." Her words lingered, a flicker of the sister I'd once known back in Seattle. Daniel and I finalized preparations for Lily. My colleagues threw a virtual baby shower, their gifts piling up in our living room: tiny dresses, stuffed animals, a quilt Olivia had sewn. The foundation grew, with Lauren's outreach landing us a feature in a Seattle magazine, boosting applications for our next scholarship round. Our calls became bi-weekly, her voice brighter as she spoke of her job and plans to take night classes in graphic design. "I'm finding me again," she said one evening. "Like you did." I smiled, remembering my own rebirth in Seattle 6 years ago. "It's hard, but worth it," I replied. One sunny May morning, my water broke while I was watering Grace's herbs. Daniel rushed me to the hospital, his calm voice steadying my nerves. After 12 hours of labor, Lily Grace Walsh was born. Her tiny cry filling the room. Daniel wept as he cut the cord, and I held her, overwhelmed by love. Her eyes, dark like Grace's, seemed to carry a piece of my mother. We called Henry, who choked up over FaceTime. "She's perfect, he said. "Just like her mom." I sent Lauren a photo, unsure if I was ready for her response. She replied instantly, "She's beautiful, Emily. Thank you for sharing." Her words, simple but sincere, stirred something in me, a cautious hope. The first weeks with Lily were a blur of joy and exhaustion. Daniel took paternity leave, and we navigated sleepless nights together, trading diaper duties and quiet cuddles. Olivia and my Seattle friends brought meals, their support wrapping us in community. Henry flew in for a weekend, his face lighting up as he held Lily. "Grace is here," he whispered, rocking her. "I feel her." I nodded, tears falling, knowing he was right. Lauren asked to visit, and after discussing with Daniel, I agreed, setting clear boundaries. She'd stay at a hotel, and the visit would be short. She arrived in June, bearing a tiny knit blanket she'd made. "I took up knitting," she said shyly. "Like Mom used to." Seeing her hold Lily, her eyes soft with awe, cracked something in my heart. We talked over tea, sharing stories of Grace, laughter mingling with tears. "I'm so sorry, Emily," she said again, voice breaking. "I know it's not enough." "It's a start," I replied, meaning it. As summer bloomed, Lily grew, her smiles lighting our days. The foundation expanded, with plans for a mentorship program. Lauren's role grew, her ideas sharp and dedicated. Our relationship wasn't healed, but it was growing, like a seedling in Grace's garden. Henry's health stabilized, and he visited Seattle, finding solace in Lily's giggles. My life, once shattered by Lauren and James, had rebuilt into something richer, a tapestry of love, purpose, and hard-won peace. Grace's lessons echoed, forgiveness was my freedom, not their absolution. As I rocked Lily, I wrote in her journal. "Pain shapes us, but love defines us. Your grandmother taught me that, and I'll teach you." Summer in Seattle unfolded like a gentle promise, with Lily Grace's laughter filling our Rainier Valley townhouse. At 42, I was navigating motherhood, my career on pause, and the tentative rebuilding of my relationship with Lauren. Lily, now 3 months old, was a bundle of joy with Grace's dark eyes and a curious smile that melted my heart. Daniel and I had settled into a rhythm, our days a blend of diaper changes, late-night feedings, and stolen moments of wonder at our daughter. The foundation in Grace's name was growing, with Lauren's remote efforts helping secure partnerships for our mentorship program. Our calls, now weekly, carried a cautious warmth, her apologies slowly chipping away at the walls between us. I'd love to hear how you found joy after hardship. Share in the comments and subscribe to follow my journey. Your support helps spread these stories of hope. Lily's presence transformed our home. Daniel, ever patient, would sing her to sleep with off-key lullabies, his venture capital work taking a back seat to fatherhood. One August evening, as we rocked Lily on our porch, he suggested a family trip. "Let's take her to the Oregon coast," he said, kissing her tiny hand. Grace loved the sea. I agreed, picturing Lily's first waves, a way to honor my mother. We rented a cottage in Coastal Haven, spending a week splashing in tide pools and building sandcastles. Lily's giggles echoed Grace's spirit, and I wrote in her journal, "Dear Lily, today you touched the ocean. Your grandmother would have been right beside you, collecting shells." Back in Seattle, I framed a photo of us three by the shore. Placing it beside Grace's locket on my nightstand. Henry's visits to Seattle became a lifeline. At 75, his heart condition stabilized, but grief lingered. He'd hold Lily for hours, telling stories of Grace's adventures, her backpacking days, her knack for finding four-leaf clovers. "You're her legacy, Em," he said one afternoon, his eyes misty. I hugged him, promising to visit Willow Creek for Thanksgiving. Lauren joined us for one of his visits, her first overnight stay in Seattle. She arrived with a stuffed seahorse. For Lily, her smile hesitant but genuine. We spent the day at a park, pushing Lily's stroller, our conversation light but meaningful, memories of Grace's holiday feasts, her love for lavender ice cream. Lauren's vulnerability was new. She spoke of her therapy, her job, her small victories. "I'm not trying to erase what I did," she said, watching Lily nap. "But I want to be someone she'd be proud of." I nodded, feeling Grace's wish weaving us closer. The Foundation's mentorship program launched in September, pairing young women with industry leaders. I returned to work part-time, balancing Zoom calls with Lily's naps. Lauren's outreach secured a major Seattle tech firm as a sponsor, boosting our visibility. During a planning call, she suggested hosting a gala to fund next year's scholarships. "It could be in Willow Creek," she said. A nod to Mom. I hesitated, wary of returning to the town where James still lingered, but agreed, sensing her sincerity. We planned the event for November, a chance to honor Grace in her hometown. Daniel supported the idea, offering to cover travel costs. "It's a step toward healing," he said, kissing my forehead. "You're doing this for you, not just her." In October, I flew to Willow Creek to finalize gala details with Lauren. Henry met me at the airport, his hug weaker but warm. "Lily's picture keeps me going," he said, showing me his phone's lock screen, a shot of her smiling. We drove to his house, where Lauren waited, a stack of event plans on the table. She'd rented a venue, a historic barn outside Willow Creek, and lined up local sponsors. Her efficiency surprised me, a glimpse of the sister who'd once organized our childhood talent shows. Over dinner, we reminisced about Grace's knack for making every event special, her hand-stitched table runners, her secret cookie recipes. "I found her recipe book," Lauren said, pulling out a worn notebook. "Let's use it for the gala dessert." I smiled, a pang of connection softening my guard. The gala was a triumph, with 200 guests filling the barn, its rafters draped in fairy lights Grace would have loved. I spoke about her legacy, my voice steady as I shared her belief in second chances. Lauren stood beside me, her own speech faltering with emotion as she thanked me for letting her contribute. "This is for Mom," she said, tears shining. "And for Emily, who's stronger than I'll ever be." The crowd applauded, and I felt a shift, a bridge strengthening between us. Henry, in a rare suit, beamed from the front row, Lily's photo tucked in his pocket. James, notably absent, was a fading shadow, his firm's struggles now public in Willow Creek's gossip mill. Back in Seattle, Lily's first Halloween was a delight. Daniel dressed her as a tiny pumpkin, and we trick-or-treated with Olivia's family. Lauren sent a costume photo of herself as a witch, a playful nod to our childhood Halloweens when Grace sewed our outfits. Our calls grew longer, touching on her plans to study graphic design full-time. "I'm scared," she admitted. "But I want to build something real." "You will," I said, surprised by my certainty. Dr. Ellis noted my progress in therapy, praising my ability to hold space for Lauren without sacrificing my peace. "You're rewriting your story," she said. "Grace would see that." Thanksgiving brought Henry to Seattle, his first holiday without Grace. We cooked her recipes, filling the house with scents of sage and cranberry. Lauren joined us, bringing a pie she'd baked from Grace's book. We laughed over old stories, Grace's terrible puns, her insistence on matching holiday sweaters. Lily, now sitting up, clapped at our voices, her presence knitting us closer. After dinner, Lauren and I walked to a nearby park, Lily in her stroller. "I'm moving forward," she said, her breath visible in the chilly air. "But I'll never stop being sorry." "I know," I replied. "I'm not ready to forgive fully, but I'm here." She nodded, tears falling, and we hugged, a real embrace, not the stiff ones of before. As winter approached, I reflected on my journey. 6 years ago, Lauren's betrayal had shattered me, but it had also led me to Seattle, Daniel, Lily, and a life richer than I'd imagined. Grace's lessons, love's endurance, forgiveness as freedom, guided me. In Lily's journal, I wrote, "Pain carves deep, but love builds stronger. Your grandmother knew that, and I'm learning it for you." The scars remained, but they were part of a tapestry woven with hope, family, and purpose, proving that even the darkest chapters could lead to light. Winter's gentle grip on Seattle brought a quiet magic to our Rainier Valley townhouse, where Lily Grace, now 6 months old, was the heart of our world at 42. Her babbling filled our mornings, her tiny hands grasping at the ornaments on our first Christmas tree as a family. Daniel and I, weaving through parenthood's joys and challenges, found deeper love in the chaos, his patience during Lily's teething nights, my laughter as she smeared puree across her cheeks. The foundation honoring Grace grew, its mentorship program thriving, with Lauren's contributions adding depth to our mission. Our weekly calls had softened into something resembling sisterhood, though forgiveness remained a journey, not a destination. I'd love to hear how you found strength in unexpected places. Share your story in the comments and subscribe to follow mine. I'm Emily Carter, from a small town called Willow Creek, and your support helps these tales of healing reach others. Lily's presence was a daily reminder of Grace's legacy. One frosty January evening, Daniel surprised me with a photo album he'd made, filled with snapshots of Lily's first months, her first smile, her bath time giggles, her tiny feet in the coastal haven sand. For her to know her story, he said, kissing my temple. I added pages, pasting in photos of Grace, her handwritten recipes, and notes from her journals. Dear Lily, I wrote, your grandmother taught me that broken hearts can mend stronger. You're proof of that. The album became a bridge between generations, a way to keep Grace's love alive. Henry, at 75, found solace in Lily during his Seattle visits. His heart condition was managed, but grief lingered. She's got Grace's spark, he said, bouncing Lily on his knee. I planned a spring trip to Willow Creek, wanting Lily to know her grandfather's home. Lauren's life in Willow Creek was rebuilding, her graphic design studies giving her purpose. She'd sent Lily a hand-drawn card for Christmas, a whimsical lily flower with Aunt Lauren signed in careful script. During a call, she shared her progress. Her small apartment was now a cozy haven, her job stable, her therapy ongoing. I'm not hiding anymore, she said. I owe that to Mom, and to you. I listened, my heart torn between old pain and new hope. Dr. Ellis, my Seattle therapist, helped me navigate this, noting that healing didn't require forgetting. You're honoring Grace by staying open, she said. The Foundation's gala success had sparked interest in a Seattle event, and Lauren offered to design promotional materials. It's my way of giving back, she said. I agreed, her talent evident in the sleek flyers she sent. In February, we hosted a small birthday party for Lily's half-year milestone. Olivia and our Seattle friends filled our home with laughter, their gifts piling high: books, toys, a tiny sweater knitted by Lauren, mailed from Willow Creek. She called that evening, her voice warm. I wish I'd been there, she said. Maybe next time? I paused, then invited her for Lily's first birthday in July, a cautious step forward. Daniel supported me, his trust in my judgment unwavering. You're building something new, he said, rocking Lily to sleep. His venture capital firm had landed a major deal, funding a solar startup, yet he remained grounded, prioritizing us. One night, as we planned the Foundation's next phase, he mentioned a past connection. I never told you, he said, but I knew James's firm was failing when we met. I didn't want that to define us. I smiled, the irony fitting. James's downfall had cleared my path to Daniel. Spring brought renewal. The Foundation's mentorship program expanded, pairing 50 young women with leaders. Lauren's designs drew praise, and she joined a virtual planning call, her ideas sharp. I'm learning from you, she said afterward, a rare vulnerability. I felt Grace's presence, her wish unfolding slowly. Henry visited in April, his eyes brighter as he pushed Lily's stroller through Seattle's cherry blossoms. Your mom would have loved this, he said, snapping photos. I shared one with Lauren, who replied, she looks like Mom. Our calls now touched on childhood, Grace's bedtime stories, her insistence on family game nights. I miss her, Lauren said one evening. Me too, I replied, a shared grief knitting us closer. In May, I returned to work full-time, balancing Lily's daycare with my vice president role. The Foundation's Seattle Gala was set for June, and Lauren flew in to help. She stayed at a hotel, respecting my boundaries, but joined us for dinner at home. Seeing her play with Lily, her laughter genuine, stirred memories of our youth. I'm sorry, Emily, she said as we washed dishes. I'll keep saying it. I hear you, I replied, my heart softening. The gala was a triumph, raising funds for 100 scholarships. Lauren's speech, thanking Grace and me, moved the crowd. I lost my way, she said, but my sister's strength showed me a path back. I hugged her on stage, a moment Grace would have cherished. Lily's first birthday in July was a milestone. We hosted a picnic in a Seattle park, with Henry, Lauren, and our friends. Lauren's gift, a hand-painted mobile of Lily's, hung above Lily's crib. You're a good aunt, I told her, meaning it. She teared up, nodding. Henry, holding Lily, whispered, Grace is smiling. Back in Willow Creek, Lauren's studies progressed, her life stabilizing. James's firm had collapsed, his name fading from Maplewood's elite circles. Lauren faced no pity from me, but I felt compassion for her journey. Our relationship wasn't fully healed, but it was real, built on honesty and Grace's love.as. Summer faded, I sat in Lily's nursery, Daniel painting a new bookshelf green. My life, once shattered by Lauren's betrayal 7 years ago, was now a mosaic of love, purpose, and peace. Grace's wisdom, forgiveness as freedom, love as strength, guided me. In Lily's journal, I wrote, "Endings are beginnings in disguise. Your grandmother knew that, and I'll teach you to find light in the dark." The scars remained, but they were proof of growth, not pain. My path, forged through loss, led to a life richer than I'd dreamed, not despite the past, but because of its lessons. Has a painful moment led you to unexpected joy? Share below, and if my story moved you, like and subscribe. Pain doesn't write the final chapter, hope does.